Do you often feel stuck even though you're seemingly doing all the right things? Then today's episode is for you. I sit down with mentor, light worker, author, and fellow podcast host Allura Halliwell as she takes us through her mentorship, The Consciousness Method, designed to transform you personally and professionally. Because as she'll explain, lasting change comes from a change in consciousness, not in behaviour. Thank you for tuning in today to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. I'm your host, Steph Bruno-Newton. Be sure to jump on my website, canigetarefillpodcast.com.au, linked in the show notes to download your free 33-page ebook on 7 ways to protect your energy and fill up your cup. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So I've designed a guide to help protect your energy and take care of yourself as you up-level your life. Download it today and make yourself a priority in 2026. Okay, let's jump in. Hello and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. We have a very ethereal, spiritual, beautiful Zen episode for you today with a beautiful guest. We're talking expanding and evolving through the consciousness method with mentor, light worker, and fellow podcast host, Allura Halliwell. Allura, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Steph. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Me too. It's right up my alley. And I have to say, as a very big fan of the Charmed sisters, is that your real surname? Because you have the best name in the world.
That's a really good question. Actually, that Halliwell is my mother's maiden name, and I adopted that after my awakening. So
I would absolutely adopt it straight away if that was in my lineage. And Allura, you have the most beautiful name. It's just certainly very apt for the work you do. I'm going to jump in and ask you some questions, but maybe before we do, do you want to give us a little rundown of the work that you do and how you work with clients?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I work directly with consciousness, which is a really vast concept to kind of get our head around. But after years of exploring how to get a very deep, real shift for people, I realized I had to go straight to the source. And consciousness underpins everything. It underpins our behavior, our movement, our reality, our existence. So to be able to shift from the level of consciousness means that the shift is complete and comprehensive. So I created the consciousness method as a way for people to really sink into the processes that allow them to connect with the vastest level of their own consciousness, to experience real shifts that are deep and meaningful and embodied, and then reflected in the reality they're experiencing. So my real purpose and mission is to align everybody to their expanded consciousness and to understand that everything in your existence, any level of trauma, any level of pain, any level of looping, repeating patterns can be shifted via an expanded experience, I suppose, and relationship to consciousness.
I love that so much, Allura, and it's something that comes up for me a lot when I wake up. It's straight to YouTube and all these sort of videos I watch because I need to start the day positive. But it really makes so much sense because there's so much noise in today's life, especially where we are bombarded by 24/7 information flowing in. But also, you know, like I always reference Joe Dispenza as something like 95% of your thoughts are repetitive. We're so conditioned. We might have heard limiting beliefs growing up around money, around self-image, body image, all this stuff that might not be our true beliefs, but they're blocking something. And you might think you're doing the right work and you think you're doing the right thing, but something's just not working. So I really love the sound of what you're doing. And can I ask, how did that come about for you? Was it like a personal thing that happened to you in your life that you found it for yourself before you started working with clients?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to share that. But can I just briefly touch in on what you mentioned about the limiting beliefs?
Please.
Because that was a really big piece for me. Because I wanted to work with that part. I was like, I need to really assess how my mental constructs are creating my reality. So I was very much involved in exploring that part. But what I realized was the limiting beliefs were really the tip of the iceberg. There was such a deeper reservoir of information within the body that was projecting out the reality around us. So the way the nervous system is constructed, the way the emotional system is constructed within the body, the levels of density of the stored trauma that we carry in our bodies, our relational aspects, how we connect with our world and the people around us. And all these layers made me realize there was such a bigger picture to creating true change. And I began to realize there was an inner template that we were projecting that was beyond the thoughts. It was this multi-dimensional aspect of us. So when I kind of began to move away from just looking at the top level of the limiting beliefs to sink into all these layers of our being, it was then that I realized the power of us shifting that inner template for a true change in our reflection, our reality provided. So that was a huge shift for me to really be in that place and to move away from some of the healing mantras that our thoughts create our reality, to go a lot deeper into what is really creating our reality.
Oh, I love that. And when did this come about for you? You just mentioned to me before we started recording that you have 3 teenagers. So I have to say you seem very calm for someone with 3 teenagers in the house. And for someone with me, I'm on the opposite end with a 16-month-old son who is so much. My mum babysat him yesterday or 2 days ago. I was like, how did it go? She's like, good. He was a lot. He is full on, like climbing every piece of furniture. So I'm at this really funny crux, like fork in the road place in my life where meeting him made me wanted something different for my life and my world, but then also trying to make change and make this beautiful sort of life for my family whilst juggling such a little one is really hard, like so rewarding, but so hard. So how old were your children when you sort of started on this journey?
Yeah, they were 4, 6, and 8.
Okay.
So I was in the thick of it. I was
Yeah.
absolutely in the thick of it. I had these little divine beings, and I was in survival mode. I was just thinking about like lunches and holidays and trying to like get everyone to school and my separation anxiety. And then
Oh, yeah.
my husband was quite like stressed. He was like financially stretched. He
Oh,
was
yes.
overwhelmed. He was, dysregulated, like he wasn't doing any work on himself. I wasn't doing any work on myself. We were kind of just living day to day, trying to get through, being
Well,
parents.
sometimes it feels like it's one or the other. It's either keep these little humans alive or work on yourself. It's really hard to do both at the same
Very
time.
complex to do both.
Yeah.
So I would say that I was pretty spiritually unaware and just trying to survive. And I went to a meditation retreat because one of my girlfriends was organizing it, and she said, listen, do you want to come along? And I was like, oh, that sounds like a holiday. I'd love to try it. So yes, please. And what I didn't expect was that I wasn't going to come back the same human. I had a radical awakening at that retreat. I experienced a spontaneous, intense out of body experience where I left my body. And it was more like a near-death experience, I would say, because I went through the white light. I died to myself.
We're going to get into that too, so don't give too much away on that.
No, I
Yep.
won't. And my whole identity actually dissolved in that. What happened in real time was that we went down to the beach to meditate. I could feel something was going on, but I couldn't put my finger on it. My body got pulled to the sand. I was lying there. I was breathing. I was, stable, but my consciousness moved up through my body and actually left out the crown of my head, and I could see my body lying on the sand.
Just from meditation.
Yeah, because the experience of being in the energy must have initiated something in my being that it was time to take a new level of expression from my soul. And I haven't been able to work out why this happened to me or exactly how it happened to me. But all I know is that there was a force greater than me that took me on that ride. Yeah.
I feel like that's touching on what I said in the beginning. You said you were in survival mode. There's so much going on. It's just you don't stop to have the silence. And I think perhaps you were taken away to a place of nothing but stillness, and whatever needed to reach you reached you. And that's why I'm always harping on about how vital it is for mums especially to get that time on their own to connect with themselves, with nature. Like you explaining that retreat, I feel like I'm going to cry. I have horrendous PMS at the moment. I'm sleep deprived, and I'm feeling like, oh, I need that so much. Like I need a little more of that in my life at the moment. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And when you said survival mode, I started laughing because when I walked past a lady the other day, she pushed in front of me in the shops, but it's totally fine. She was elderly and had a sign that said, "I'm vision impaired, slightly vision impaired." I feel like walking around with a sign that says, "I'm in survival mode." Please be gentle
Please
with
be
me.
kind. I love that. Yes. Make those. We can make t-shirts.
Like that. That's not a bad idea. Etsy.
Yeah.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like you've already touched on it a bit, but just talk us through what the consciousness method is and how it differs from traditional healing or other coaching modalities.
Yeah, so when I left my body so radically, I touched consciousness. I merged with source. I'm merged with the all. So when I came back into my body and opened my eyes, I was beginning to see reality from a whole nother level. I didn't see it as a physical fixed experience. I saw it as patterns, energy, a whole different construct. And when I had that insight, I was like, oh, wow, there's so much here that we can move and shift from a non-linear, non-dense, non-fixed perspective. And that access into the consciousness was where I began to formulate the understanding, firstly for myself, and then experiencing it with others. How do we access the direct connection? And then how do we use that connection to process ourselves so profoundly that we shift layers of consciousness that allow us to experience another level of reality? Because it's a projection. Everything within us is projecting around us. And that doesn't mean that we're a victim to reality. It means we have the most beautiful mirror to work with. The problem that I find for a lot of people is if we're stuck in overwhelming cycles of pain, fear, limitation, looping, people just don't feel like there's a way out. So they feel like whatever's being shown to them in reality feels too much. But when we understand this method, we can take everything that's being shown, we can work with it directly in a way that feels internally safe. And then the perception of that thing shifts. It's like magic. I see it all the time. People just go, oh my gosh, that thing is not what I thought it was. It is not the threat I thought it was. It is not the block I thought it was. It is not the end I thought it was. It's something completely different. And it's showing me what to do internally to be able to move and expand through that space. And often whatever's being shown to you will be a reflection of something that's stuck in your system from before that time. What I call a fractal. So say there's a relationship that's not functioning properly, there'll be some fractal of that you'll be able to find that's deeper than just that relationship. Or you're not able to get through a work situation. There's deeper fractals being held in the body. So we have to go to the core and we have to transform from there on the way up. Yeah, so that's deep work.
It's deep work. I feel like I get it, but I have so many questions running through my head because I want real layman's terms here. So like someone like Eckhart Tolle, is that what he went through? Because you know how he was talking about how he was sitting on a bench and had a complete nervous breakdown. Do you think that's the same thing? He got into consciousness. Is this the same sort of experience that you believe you had?
Yeah, I think it's an access point. I definitely created a greater level of access by default by experiencing that. And yeah, it just ended up being a new way of perceiving, of perception. I think that's what happened to Eckhart too. And then it's just a download, really. It's just like an accessing and a download and a seeing and a feeling and a reflecting in a different way. And I don't think everyone needs to have a radical experience because I've being in the presence of many that I've guided through this process and I've watched them actively initiate their connection to consciousness and shift themselves entirely from within, creating a new reality around them. So what I think I was here to do was to go on that journey that was spontaneous and out of, the conception of what was possible, take the pieces that I learned and then allow it to be a pathway for others to initiate for themselves.
Yeah, you're
Not
a
because
teacher. Eckhart Tolle's a teacher.
yeah.
Not that everyone has to go through it, but we need some guides to guide us through. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
and one of my strongest beliefs is that it's all about you. And it's not about me. I'm just a conduit for the consciousness that you can then take and have for yourself. It's not about me knowing something or being different or being special. It's about you accessing what is truly yours. And I'm just a mirror to keep showing you where that is.
I love that. Why do so many people feel stuck despite doing all the right things in therapy, self-help, or spiritual practices? Because very often everyone will start the new year and do all different things, but it doesn't get them anywhere and they can feel despondent. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. I think the things we're being taught to do in those spaces are only very tip of the iceberg things,
Okay.
and they're only going to get a tip of the iceberg response. And then we get a little bit despondent because we're like, well, we're not getting true change. Getting true change is a little bit of a mission because you have to go to places that you don't really want to go. You have to be in relationship to the fear that you've been avoiding that's protecting you from expanding. You
Yeah,
have to
I
be,
laughed because a year ago I said, this whole 2025, I'm going to get comfortable in the uncomfortable. And that's why a lot of people might not go to therapy or to face things that feel uncomfortable for that interim period. But what they don't realize is that they're already uncomfortable. They'll just remain uncomfortable, but it's familiar uncomfortability.
yeah, it's a safe, uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And well, it's an illusion of safety because it's like we think it's
it's just
comfortable
familiar.
because it's familiar,
Mm.
but we're just limited on that vast, that greater level that we haven't seen. Um, so I think there is a deeper relationship. And the second piece in that is that I have realized over doing this work that there isn't a clear understanding for us what reality really is and what our relationship is to it. Like we walk around and we look at all the things around us and all the experiences and all the things we're doing, but how are we actually interfacing with that? So, beyond our internal healing, how do we create a relationship with what's going on around us that it's very clear for us that we can move the pieces, that we don't feel a victim to what's going on around us? That interface piece between us internally and what's happening outside of us, I believe that's where the gold is. And that's where I've been able to find this access point that if you know how to work in that interface, everything around you becomes just a beautiful evolutionary tool. It doesn't become a trap or painful or never ending and stuck. It becomes just a gift to evolve through.
That's beautiful. I'll just quickly sidetrack for a minute. So, when you're working with your clients, is it in person, one on one? Is it in groups?
Yeah, so it's in a group and it's online
Great.
that we come together for retreat. And actually, we've got a beautiful retreat in March in Sydney. We've got one in May in Auckland. We're going to have one in Los Angeles and London later in the
Wow.
year. And then we're going to be back to Sydney in November.
Oh,
So,
you've got a very exciting 2026. Good for
yes.
you. And so, when people are working online with you, is it like for a certain amount of weeks? How does it work?
Yeah, so we have a 6-month experience where there are 5 sessions in a week where you can pop in and get a reflection. So it's like an open door kind of space where, say, for example, you wake up Monday morning and you've got a massive trigger running through your body. You're like, I'm not sure how to get through this. So you pop on the call, and whoever else needs support that day will be on there. And then we'll have time together and I'll create the space for you to receive the reflection you need to work in real time in the reality.
Yep.
And that works in with the 12 weeks of the content. We have 2 streams of content. One is just the base, the mentorship that allows you to transverse all your wounding. And then we've got the quantum consciousness, which is the expanded creation container. So you can be working in those 2 spaces on the deep inner interface and on the creation. And then in that space, every day you come and we share and we evolve really radically, and you get the reflections of everyone else who's doing the work.
Beautiful. It sounds like a very safe space. Let me ask you, what does emotional sovereignty mean, and why is it central to personal transformation in both life and work?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. So many of us feel a victim to the emotional experience that we're having, whereby we're constantly triggered. And then we have this stress response or this overwhelm response where instead of being clear internally and processed internally, we're just in constant reflection or overwhelmed to everything happening around us. So our emotions are not really our own, they're more in response to things that come in from the outside. When we create emotional sovereignty, we've really realized how to honor the depths of the emotional experiences we've had and we create internal safety. Internal safety means anything that's painful for you has a really safe container for you to process through it. So then you don't keep getting that part of you triggered by everything going on around you. And when that happens, you can have an experience, and instead of dropping into a deep trigger that affects you and creates another level of your timeline and reverberates, you can be like, oh, wow, I'm being triggered. Let me go and process that internally and allow a new space of reality to open up where I don't need to respond in a predictable, familiar way, which is going to get me the same looping outcomes. So that freedom, emotional freedom, is one of the greatest gifts we can have as humans because it puts us on another level. We're not at the mercy of anything outside of us.
Oh, I love that. You're right. You feel trapped by the triggers that way, don't you? Do you think that people need to be ready to do work like this? Like, have you ever had clients come to you and they're doing it, but it's not, like, for instance, I hate to reference Eckhart Tolle again, but I remember years ago I tried to read the book and I was like, this makes no sense to me. And then a few years later, every word jumped out to me on the page like a light bulb. So I felt like I just needed to be ready to have like a personal transformation. Do you think that might be the case?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that people are in a certain frequency to be able to tune in. However, what happens with the work I do is it's like learning another language. So people come into the space and they're having to get their head around how it all is constructed because I'm taking you to another level of understanding. So most people come in and go, oh my gosh, this is going to take a minute for me to get my head around. And I just really honor that journey because it's embodied. It's not something you're going to understand. It's something your consciousness is going to begin to get to know on an internal level as you go through the processes. And every week there's a specific process that's like a meditation, but it's a little bit different because it's very frequency coded and very guiding for you to do the inner work. So you work through these processes and you begin to embody the consciousness. And it's not so much like, reading, because I have a lot of people come to me and they're like, I know all about all the methods, all the modes of healing, all the modalities, but I just don't feel it inside. And so to learn a new level of consciousness, it's going to be about embodiment. So I would say if you're in any level of pain, if you're in any level of overwhelm, if you're in any level of like feeling really stuck, this work is something that can open that space and then transform from that space. And I normally have people that have been trying to heal for a long time, or people that are just in a lot of trauma, in a trauma access point in their lives, like something big is happening where they just can't find their footing. And those people feel like, oh, wow, this is work I can really sink into. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. What rewarding work for you too, that you must end your day feeling it's probably somewhat drained, but something very rewarded too, seeing people just up-level their lives like that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's an honor.
You touched on this earlier. Can you walk us through what it means to die to self and why this often misunderstood process is so essential to true freedom and transformation?
Yeah, it's that threshold point. It's that point where you go, oh my gosh, if I go past that point, I'll go into the unknown and I don't know what will happen. If I make that call that I've been avoiding, if I quit that job that I know is not good for me, but I don't want to give up, if I start to show up in another way, there is that fear that I don't know who I will be on the other side of that. So there's a nervous system response and a conceptual limitation that happens that we want to actually find that threshold and we want to die into the limited version of the self to expand into the true authentic self. So my work takes you through that portal, through that threshold, because I've found you can do all the healing in the world, but if you're not actually activating in reality and pushing past that threshold and being supported to go beyond the limited version of yourself, you will keep looping because it's the energetics of how this reality is designed. So
that makes sense. And that's why you see people break up with someone and then find the same personality again and they're repeating it because they're not learning the lessons or they're not looking at the self to see what I don't want to say what they're contributing, but you know what I mean? Like, bad relationships, sometimes you're on the radar of the bad person because of how you see yourself, and they can just be a mirror of it. But it's the same with, this is a personal belief, so I don't want anyone in the medical industry coming at me, but with cancer, like you hear so often, people will get rid of one cancer, then it comes back in another body part, and then they get rid of another body part because they haven't dealt with the underlying issue. So, the root cause.
Yeah. Because in the work, we work so intimately with those patterns, like to really find where the root cause is and where the consciousness is trapped in a limitation of experience. So we want to expand through that. And the dying to self process, it's not pretty. It's not like I'm going to sit on a cushion and meditate and like be all light and angels and freedom and whatever, rainbows. It's like, no, we're going to go through the part you do not want to go through because we're going to liberate you. We don't want to live this half life. And the people that do this work are so motivated to living their full, authentic, wide spectrum life. And for me, that's the purpose of being here. We're not here to be stuck in any form.
I love what you said there, that it reminds me of Strictly Ballroom was one of my favorite movies growing up, and where the older woman said, a life lived in fear is a life half lived. And I used to have that written in my little book that I used to read, because it's so funny. I've always been very brave, but then also very nervous and scared. And I did this frequency reading. It's a long story, but it came up high on the courage, but also high on the fear. I said, I don't doubt it. Like, I signed myself up for everything, and then I just absolutely shit myself before I have to do something because I'm so nervous. But at least I still do it. At least I show up. But yeah, well, I think again that touches on the people are scared of the unfamiliar, right? So it's like the way you were describing it reminded me of, I always said I'd never do ayahuasca. The sound of it freaks me out. I don't ever want to not be in control. But it sounds like it's the same thing. Like, you need to sort of, it's not pretty, it's not comfortable, kind of like a colonic irrigation. But to unclog, you have to go through the unpretty to feel fantastic, right? It's an emotional colonic irrigation.
It's like an emotional irrigation, colonic irrigation. I would say yes to that on a vast spiritual level, energetic level, emotional level, physical level, reality level. It's all that.
I need analogies to really understand things.
Oh, yeah, I like that. He does it well.
I love that. Do you think that modern society is not set up for like spiritually healthy lives? And if so, what would you like to see changed in schools, workplaces, and society as a whole, just to allow us to live a more fulfilled, meaningful existence? And I love what you were saying that before. You want to see people living, it's like we're half awake, zombie mode, looking at phones, not looking up when we walk. You just want to see everyone evolved and living a beautiful life, because it changes the collective, and then that will make you feel good and everyone feel good.
Yes, I love that question. I wrote a book about that. It's called Unloved, Unworthy, Unknown, and it's coming out in January 26, so maybe before or after this airs. However, in that book, I talk about the 3 core wounds of humanity, which are feeling unloved, unworthy, and unknown. Every single human is running the energetic, emotional, and reality patterns of feeling one of those wounds. Unloved, unworthy, and unknown. And unknown can be split into a couple of categories, which is not feeling understood, heard, or received. Not knowing, as in not having enough information to feel safe about where you exist, or not feeling safe, so not having a predictable environment where you feel you can relax. So the unloved, unworthy, unknown are these 3 core wounds that operate on multiple levels within our beings, and everyone's operating out of them. So what I find is so profound with the work when people get this concept is that instead of seeing others as being judging others, I suppose, in a way where we go, oh, that person's being this or that person's being that, we go to the root and we look at how are they operating out of their wounding, out of their survival patterns, and how are we operating out of our wounding, our survival patterns. And when you see that these survival patterns are very unconscious, very automatic, and very just much on repeat, you begin to feel less personalization in the impact of the relationship. So for people to understand this from a really young age and look beyond the behavior to really exploring where is that person coming from, that I feel could be life changing, because and globally changing the whole pattern of humanity, because we don't sit in judgment, we don't sit in fear of others, we don't sit in distance, separation, isolation, overwhelm in the relational sense. We get to connect, and we connect on another level beyond those wounds. So I think this is really important work for us to move through.
I love that. And as you said, from a young age. So if this was something that was taught in schools to teach people how to work through their emotions instead of being reactive, and it would just, yeah, it'd be a different world. It's like the same as when you watch, I saw a video of two women hit each other in the car and they got out. And you know how you always expect people to yell, and, you know, you always see a lot of men do it. And they got out and they both went up to each other and hugged and said, "Are you okay?" Like, just checking that the other one was okay. And my whole energy in my body changed, because I'm like, isn't that beautiful when your instinct is not to be triggered or the ego to take over, but let's just take a breath. My son watches Miss Rachel all the time, and she's always teaching, it's okay to have big feelings. Just take a breath. And I'm like, what a beautiful lesson. I don't remember seeing, Humphrey B. Bears talk about that in the 80s when I was growing up. But it's really such important work, isn't it, to teach children that it's okay to have these emotions, but how can we work through them?
Yeah, to have that deeper, true empathy for another, instead of the like, oh, why, what, they're doing that to me. It's like, no, what's going on for them? That question is
Yes.
so
But
powerful.
it depends on the day you're having and the mood you're in. So as I said, I get, since my son was born, my PMS is awful. My hormones are off the chart. Like I get in a very deep, dark place. I got to talk to the doctor about it, because it's not good. Like it's not me. And I'm sorry that you've gotten this version of me today. I'm normally a lot more spiritual, but I notice that I'm different with others when I'm in that mode. And then when I'm feeling really great and positive, I just smile at people, and, like, people are drawn to you in that way. So yeah, everyone just mirrors what you're putting out there. So I hate that if I'm in that, I hope I haven't poisoned someone's day with my mood. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I feel like I want to stay in the house with locked doors when I'm not high vibe. And I am very big on boundaries, and I say no now to, like, party invitations if I'm in not a great place, because I'm like, you know what? You're not going to have a good time if I show up like that. I need to, and you want to show up as your most authentic self, but if you're not in a good place, for me, my sort of survival thing is to just stay home until I'm feeling good, and then be out and be social again. That's just
Yeah, no, I think
my
that
thing.
survival mode is very natural for all of us. And I think that's the place, right, where the work happens, where it's like, actually, what is the true pain and fear that's operating in my body? And especially when you've had a bubba, what I've seen happen over and over again, I didn't realize this when my kids were little, but a lot of the unconscious stored trauma, cellular trauma in our own bodies. And when I say trauma, it's not that you were mistreated, it's just that there are survival modes that get laid in our system as we're growing. And it's about attunement and responsiveness, and not that our parents meant to do anything wrong, but sometimes we were left crying, and sometimes we weren't responded to in ways we needed
It could
to.
be anything. It could be something a teacher said to you.
And yeah, and it could
stored
be
a
something
trauma.
else external. Yeah. So what happens with our kids is that they're the mirror to where our nervous system is and what is unconscious in our nervous system. So when we do the deep pain work, we're going through to the layer where that density is stored.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need to relive it, but we need to feel the truth of that in our body instead of trying to suppress it and avoid it and feel better. So we go into that and we open the nervous system to feel safe, to have completion on what it might be got stuck on and is cycling in. So when I'm working with beautiful humans that have children, we're always looking at that pattern reflection and going, where is that root in our own body, in our own being?
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. A lot came up, even from the first, as soon as I found out I was pregnant, a lot of things. And I was told about that, and I was like, it's so true. And so many things from your own life and childhood come up that you have to work through. Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? So interesting. And I was also, I've referenced this before, very conscious of my own stuff, because I know that, like, you can pass through ancestral things, through the mother to the child. So I'm like, got to work on my stuff. And I had a really nice spiritual and energy healing, like, as soon as I found out I was pregnant and just before he was born. So it was very nice
That's
too.
special.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my next question was about your book, but you've referenced that. So as I said, I'm not sure when this is going to air. So hopefully your book is out by the time this is aired. So Unloved, Unworthy, Unknown would definitely be in the show notes, and we'll link everything for everyone to find you. But let everyone know, it will be in the show notes, but do let us know now where everyone can reach you.
So where everyone can reach me is via allurahallywell.com, or you can find me on social media. And I'm really open to connecting and reflecting where you're at. So please feel free to send me a message. Let me know what's going on for you, what you might need. And just to be able to feel that there are other pathways to really deep work and transformation, and that you can be held to go through that. I think it's important to know that that's available. So I'm here for that. I'm all about that. That's my whole existence on all levels. So I'd love to support anyone that's feeling that need.
Beautiful. And I look forward to reading your book too when that comes out. I'll be sure to do that. We're all about filling up our cups over here. So Allura, tell us, what is something that you'll be doing in the next week to fill up your cup?
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. To fill up my cup, it's going to sound a little bit strange, but I have to record 12 new quantum meditations, and to connect in that space and connect with the source and to record those meditations. They're all going to be an hour long. That for me is like soul nurturing work, because I get to just sit in that zone and record and expand. And that's a really big part of my work. I do a lot of that, and especially at retreat. We go really into vast spaces with the meditation. So I'm going to be really looking forward to creating those.
Wow, that's beautiful. I actually just recorded my very first guided meditation yesterday, and I'm going to start adding them to YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel, but that was a 10-minute one. So wow, 12 1-hour sessions. You are going to be so zen by the time you finish recording those. That's beautiful. Yeah. Laura, I've enjoyed our chat so much. As I said, I'm sorry I'm not high vibe, but I think maybe that was meant to be, because your energy's helped my energy today. So I very much appreciate that. Just very eye-opening, fascinating work. And I have been reading a lot of your content, but I'm really interested on a personal level too to find out more, and very excited to watch about these retreats. So we'll see what comes up for me, but I would love to join one soon. So that sounds phenomenal. Yeah. So again, everything for Allura will be linked to the show notes. So everyone do check that out. And hopefully the book's out by then. I'll link things in my socials. But thank you so much for being part of this community today.
Thank you so much, Steph, and just honoring you, because to have a little one and to be holding this space and to be creating this for those that are listening, it is a really incredible gift. So honoring you and your presence and your authenticity, it's been such an honor for me.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. And everyone, please do something the next week to fill up your cup.